A Japanese warrior, fresh off a victory against an uprising against his lord, is told a prophecy of his future ascendancy by a mysterious spirit. Encouraged and aided by his wife, he embarks on a descent into blind ambition and corruption in the 1957 film Throne of Blood. That's right, it's MacBeth Kurosawa style. This week on Movie Bones.
おい、わしを存じておるのか。
はい、今宵から北の太刀のお殿様。
うん。今宵から北の太刀の殿。
はい、雲の巣城のご城主様。
That's Takatoki, let's see if I get this right, Takatoki Washizu, who, for the rest of the movie, we're just going to be calling MacBeth because, well, that's who he is to Western audiences. And he's talking there to a spirit in the forest he's encountered who's just told him he's about to be promoted to Master of the North Castle and then to be promoted to the even more impressive Master of the Forest Castle. When the first part of that prophecy comes true almost immediately, his wife takes it as a sign that he should fulfill the second part through murder. And the rest is, well, if you guys are at all familiar with MacBeth, you know it's not one of Shakespeare's comedies. So, you know, and Brian, you know that too. So, but you're familiar with MacBeth, right?
I'm familiar enough with it to know the basic layout. I have seen... Oh, I was about to say Lion King. That's Hamlet. I have seen the Lion King.
Yay. Which it is related tangentially to Shakespeare, so you're not entirely off base either. So
yeah.
You're not off base.
Oh, if only we were doing Hamlet. If only we were talking about Hamlet here. I could say I have seen the Lion King and be legit. Okay. So yes, I am familiar enough with MacBeth. Now, I'm not as familiar as I would like to be. MacBeth is a story that I do find to be very good and everything, and I will go ahead and say it. Thought this movie did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I mean, I looked it up. It is considered to be one of the best, movie translations of any Shakespeare story. And, it's like, well, and one of the things that makes it a really good telling, and maybe it's just to my Western eyes, but it's the element of Japanese culture that he's able to infuse into it that helps.
Okay. So that's one of, this is going to sound like I'm dinging the movie. I am not dinging the movie. This is one of those movies where as I was watching it, I was like, I kind of wish I knew a little bit more about Japanese culture.
Oh,
like
yeah.
That the the samurai culture and everything, because, we know enough about it. I will say we know enough about it to get by on certain things. But the witch who you could consider maybe a ghost and everything, just knowing some mythos lore behind that would have been very cool, because that was you heard that scene, folks. That's part of the scene that you heard right out the gate here. That is as creepy as it can be in the movie. But it's good. It's compelling. Yeah. It gives you that kind of anxiety that it's looking for at that time.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed about MacBeth, because MacBeth, when you break it down, it's a very straightforward story that has very few, what I call story beats to it. Very few turns in the story. And what MacBeth actually, to me, kind of in a good telling of it, relies upon is, that full immersion experience of there's the supernatural aspect. There's the really dwelling in the character's, guilt, the turning of the screw, so to speak. It doesn't require a lot of turns, but it's stewing in it, and also having that very deep that supernatural element. And he really nails that. I'm telling you, he really nails this.
You need someone who is going to commit to the bit, and the bit here being the slow deterioration of the mind of MacBeth, and Toshiro. Is I'm saying that right?
Toshiro Mifune, the actor. Yeah, Toshiro from Mifune.
He hits that out of the park, folks. I mean, we've watched movies with him before, and he's good in those. But like, this is and that's the thing. A good actor can give you comedy, and a good actor can give you drama. And guess what? We have seen him at his most comedic. And even though they're not as funny, but he's still really good in those movies. Oh my gosh, I know the movie. I want to keep saying, I want to call it the Western.
It's Sanjuro and or Yojimbo, because they were both the same character. Yeah.
But anyways, he's really like, we have that heroic comedian-esque figure in that movie. This is the obvious. It's Macbeth. It's the complete opposite. He's not a hero. He's an ambitious man. In fact, he's almost, although the bad guys in those movies are more comedic themselves, but he's almost like those guys that he's fighting in Yojimbo.
Yeah. I mean, he's compromised,
Yes, he's so compromised. And the layer that with, I'm going to try to say her name correctly, Isuzu?
Isuzu, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Yamada? Her
Lady Macbeth.
She's Lady Macbeth. She radiates. There's like this creepy factor to her as well. But it's not just creepy. It's just power hungry, and it's manipulative, and it's just kind of like,
it is.
Bravo. They need their flowers for this movie.
They really do. And it's like the twin forces between the spirit in the forest and her. It's like if you get the impression, at least initially, that he does resist initially, trying to think of himself as being so ambitious he would commit these grave and mortal sins. But is there that part of him inside of him that I guess is that ambitious? And that's the thing. I think that's the point of Macbeth, is that even people who don't consider themselves ambitious still can contain that seed of ambition. And it just needs a little nudge. In Macbeth, it's first of all, the spirit keeps planting the idea in his head. He tells his wife and she picks it up and she just kind of twists it ever more. The logic, that's the thing, is it's always a logic that she can come up with to step forward and justify it, even if, I've noticed this, even if it contradicts the logic she just used in a previous step. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Specifically with the prophecy says it, therefore, we have to act as if the prophecy is meant to be fulfilled this way. Later on, he says, well, the prophecy says that the other guy is going to be, his son's going to be, king, or the lord of the castle. And it's like, and she just kind of then dismisses the whole prophecy thing entirely. She's working against it now,
Yeah.
It's entirely, at that point, it's her ambition to keep fueling his.
Yeah, and that in and of itself tells us, how we, I almost want to get off on the subject. There's a lot of free will at play here. Yep, I'm going to do it.
Go for it.
This is a perfect story for like what free will looks like. You do have someone that sets you up. You can look at this as determinism if you want to, or it's like, this is what's going to happen. But yes, this might happen, but it's how you interact with what the prophecy is. And that's what we're seeing. It's how we're interacting with it. There's a part in here where he's fully determined to name his friend's son his heir.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's noble. That's honorable. It's about as honorable as he can get at that point in time, seeing as how he's, done what he's done already and everything. But again, what happens? She comes in and she tells him, oh, no. You don't need to do that. I'm having a kid. He's willing to go the evil route again when he's like, oh, I'm going to have a kid. It's going to be mine and everything. It's like, do you see what we're talking about? That it's like, while yes, there is this factor that is predetermined in its own way, it's the steps that how they get there, and they choose how they get there.
Yes.
And it's like you have two outcomes. It's like the good ending, the bad ending, and like everything they choose along the way is always leading them to the bad ending.
Yeah.
It's like at the beginning, it's like, they're like, oh, you're going to be the forest kingdom, or you're going to be the head of the forest castle. Like, you're going to control everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you get to that point? Well, in their brains, they're like, well, let's get to that point by killing the guy that is currently the guy.
Jump ahead,
What's set up is like him and his friend, they valiantly defend everything. They're going to be rewarded for it. Like that kind of stuff is like, okay, you have paths now. It's like you can do it the right way the right way being like you continue being this noble, honorable man who,
and maybe someday
you know,
the forest castle, the leader of that castle, he dies of natural causes, and then they nominate you because you have your valiant service and all that, But and that's the thing. It takes a certain amount of trust. If you believe that certain things are going to happen, but if you just let yourself trust that those things would happen, and not proactively try to control them, in other words. And it comes from suspicion. Like Lady Macbeth is like one of the most suspicious characters I think I've ever seen in film. And it's that suspicion that it's like it causes him to doubt like the world around him,
Yes.
Everyone's going to be out. They're going to come after me if I don't act. And it's justification again. If I don't act, they're going to come after me. But that ends up causing him to be the one then he becomes the bad guy. It's like, well, and I see people like this in the world today. They think that whatever their opposition is out there, whatever they see, like that things are darker than they are, first of all, but they see enemies everywhere. And then it's like, if I don't do something about it actively, if I don't act in this, what's considered socially inappropriate ways, then I am at risk. I'm not going to put myself at risk by letting me be the second one acting. I'm not going to be the one who's responding. I'm going to be the one who takes action.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? I'll tell you what this reminds me of. There's this, it's not philosophy. It's actually a psychological study. You have to look, like, I know people that have had to learn it. I don't know how much it holds up today. It is what it is. However you feel about it is however you feel about it. I do agree with some of these points. Now, I'm not going to go off into why I don't agree with some things, but I've watched a lot of movies of the past couple weeks, and this is another aspect of these movies that I realized was like, wow, this is really kind of embedded in most of these movies that I've been watching and everything. Have you ever heard of The Shadow Self?
Is it recent?
It's not recent. Like, I would say it's more modern, but it's not as modern. It is by psychologist Carl Jung.
Okay, no, I haven't read that. I'm not familiar then.
It's the shadow self, and you kind of already hinted at it. The shadow self is that kind of like what we hide away, what we don't want. Basically like if we could act in a way that wouldn't get us in trouble. That's kind of what it is. I don't think that's all of what it is, but it's kind of what it is. Like we hold ourselves back, we push ourselves away, our shadow selves, for a variety of reasons. There's things that can bring the shadow self, the evil side, the dark side of us, to the forefront, and that's kind of what happens in this movie. He starts as an honorable man. His inhibition is there. That evil side of him is there. It's pushed out by Lady Macbeth. Now, I want to make this very clear. This is not a case of, woman bad. No, that's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is this, that she acts as a conduit to his shadow self, and he allows that to come out.
Yeah.
Like, every time he listens to her, he allows it to come out. If the story was flipped, it'd be the same thing. But, like, it's there. It's already inside of him, but he's allowing it to come out. And the reason why he's letting it come out, because he wants that power.
Yeah.
And, we live in this is a society throughout all of history. I want to make that very clear. But, like, we want instant gratification. He's not willing to wait. Nothing that he's doing is willing to wait. Yes, does she act as a conduit to bring it out? True, yes, but it's his choice. He could have told her no at any time. These stories are written during high patriarchal times. He could have looked at her and said, I'm not listening to you. He's allowing himself, because he already wants it, because that part of him already desperately wants it, he's allowing it to come out. She acts as a conduit for it, but he's allowing it to come out. So he allows his shadow self to burst into the world and do these things. At any given moment, he could have said, no, I will not do this, but he wanted that instant gratification.
And you can see it in the conversations he's having with Lady Macbeth. There's certain turning points in the conversation, and some of them more subtle than others, but one of them I noticed was that when the object becomes, this is immoral, it switches from this is immoral, but then he starts thinking about, well, if I did that, then what are the consequences to me? And that is a natural second step, as people jump to. It's like, what's the first thing to go is principle, right? The first thing is to go to principle. The next thing is to go is to fear for the self. And then the only thing that's left is that if you can convince yourself, the fear to yourself, that the threat to yourself can be overcome. Once you get past that, it's when I've noticed, it's like that's when the monster can be unleashed. Immediately, you can tell he's horrified by what he's done. And then, of course, in Lady Macbeth, she grabs the thing. It's not a dagger as it is in the Scottish version, but it's a spear.
It's a whole spear.
It's a whole spear, and it's covered with blood. I got to take a step aside, just on the creative side of things. The special effects in this movie, you wouldn't think that you could get so far on just something like makeup, lighting, and well shot cinematography. But that's all I can really see is going on in those scenes. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The sound design in these scenes, the hairs on my arm up at those moments. You know what I'm talking about?
That's how it felt like when we were first introduced to the spirit, because it's done just so well that you're just like, this is creepy.
Yeah, I've never seen another version of it like this.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it makes me want to eventually go and watch other versions of Macbeth, because that's the thing with Shakespearean stories. They're so adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what makes them so endearing, is that they're just so adaptable. And honestly, most Shakespeare stories, not all of them, but a lot of Shakespeare stories, he adapted from somewhere else.
Yeah. And they go straight to a lot of very human, relatable human condition type stuff, and it gets right to the heart of it in many cases. Do you think modern audiences are going to be kind of a little frustrated by the pace of it? Is it a little slow paced for some modern audiences?
Maybe. I mean, it's not a very long movie.
It's not long, although it does linger on certain shots, I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, I would think if you have a basic understanding of, not Macbeth, of Shakespeare, because obviously Shakespeare is a lot talking, so it's a lot of action like that. So I don't know, it could be, you're not going to get, this is coming from someone who's not watched other Macbeth versions or versions of Macbeth. You're absolutely 100%. You're not getting big battles. If you're wanting big battles, you're not getting them. This is more of a character piece. So I like character pieces. So I will say that I was more just being a character grow and change and everything like that. So
yeah.
The pacing didn't bother me. Of course, there are some times, and I think this happens with a lot of older movies. There are some times with older movies you're like, man, I do wish this would end.
Yes,
but
yeah, I know what you mean.
It could if you're not, like I said, a big thing is with a lot of these movies, a lot of these stories, sometimes you're going to get big battle scenes. You're not going to get that in this movie, and it works perfectly. In fact, there's only one big battle scene that's hinted at, and then of course we'll talk about that here in a moment. But that does not take place because of what actually does happen.
Yes, and in terms of the pacing, it's like the other film that I could think of. It's a more modern film. Came out more than a dozen years later or so. But Alien, the original Alien movie, and it's a very different genre. But what made me think of it is the atmosphere. First of all, the focus on atmosphere and tension. Only in this case, the atmosphere builds around character instead of around the threat. But it's a similar thing. It's no one I know really thinks of Alien as a boring movie. And yet there's a lot of pauses. There's a lot of time just to take in things that are going on. And that's what I get in here too. It's a very much soak in it kind of a film. You get to soak in these scenes and really absorb the characters and the acting that's going on in their faces, not just in the words that they're saying.
His death, you are seeing, his death consists of being shot with just arrows after arrow after arrow after arrow. You were so excited to talk about this yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear it.
I still don't know, even after reading it, I still don't know how they did the one through his throat. Yeah. I still don't know how they did that, because that's you're seeing it pierce his flesh. It's okay. So the idea here is, folks, is they had a bunch of actual archers shoot arrows at the actor. And the only difference is that some of the arrows, I think, were blunt tipped with needles that were guided by wires to make sure that they would hit a very armored part of his body, basically, and so that they wouldn't actually pierce flesh. But the others, actual arrows, and it's like a whole nest of arrows that they're throwing him in. It's like I was amazed at the stunt in Mad World. You guys may remember this if you listened to that episode. That I was really impressed by the airplane that flew through a billboard. But I have to say, this actually, I think, tops that one. Just to be as an actor sitting there with a bunch of arrows aimed at you. And the only thing that I think Toshiro Mifune did for his own safety, I think that he would gesture, using his acting, by the way, to gesture the direction he was about to move in so that the archers knew where he was going so that they wouldn't hit him that way. But you're still aiming at him, in quotes. It's like, and it's a marvel. It's like whenever I watch that in the future, and I'm going to watch this in the future, that's going to be something I'm going to just get. My jaw's going to be on the floor, man. It's it boggles my mind that someone actually let themselves get shot at like that.
And that's sometimes what they say, the price of art.
Yeah, the price of art, and things you would not see today. And we've talked about that too. It's like things you would not get away with today because of insurance companies probably stepping in and saying, no, we will not let you do that. Anyway, final verdict time.
Real quick, I think that we're both just clearly on the same page. This is nuke the fridge territory.
If you ever wonder what Ryan's sarcastic voice was like, or not serious, there you go.
We clearly had so many problems with this movie.
So many problems.
We've spent the whole entire time just
complaining and complaining and complaining. No, this is one of the best Shakespeare adaptations I've seen. This is Fortune and Glory. Period.
I'm going to give it that too.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, it's well acted. You like I said before, you really feel the emotion. So yeah, Fortune and Glory.
Yeah, Fortune and Glory, man. So anyway, now's the time when we'd like to remind the listening audience out there that if you're watching these movies alongside us, and you should be, and hearing our reactions, please do like, subscribe, comment, and of course, follow us on your podcast purveyor of choice. Tell us if you think we got it all wrong. Maybe it is a Nuke the Fridge movie for you. I don't know. But if you thought that, let us know. Put it down in the comment section. And maybe nominate some films you'd like us to see do. Because, especially if they're available for free, because this adventure comes with no strings attached. In any case, Ryan and I thank you for sticking with us on this shared journey. And on that note, what are we going to be watching for next week, Ryan?
Next movie is going... let's be real with you guys. We're going to be very real with you guys. We're both covering a movie that we love.
We've seen him. So this is one of the exceptions where we have both seen this movie. Yeah, but it does still qualify as in terms of the date bracket.
So you might be going into a movie that you already hear us say that you already know the verdict before you might be going in. But no, this is a great movie. Great movie. I can't wait to talk about it. It's just so much to talk about in such little time that we talk. But next week is a movie starring William Holden, Gloria Swanson, directed by Billy Wilder. The great noir film in and of itself, Sunset Boulevard.
And it is a noir film. This is one of those noir films I really can say I truly love. And I'm not.
Yes.
So.
I would say I'll go ahead and say it's the quintessential one.
Okay. That's really high praise for you. I know how much you're into the genre, even more than I am. So. But anyway, yeah, that's about it for us this week, folks. So, Ryan, I guess I'll see you next week. And folks, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
¡No te quito que no puedo hablar!